let's get started with the important stuff here. How much time we have on the clock before humans reach their dead end. Okay, and yeah, please let me know if you can't hear me or see me. Okay. Okay, so let's go with this. I had a bit of news, and it went like this: a virtual meeting that we had here with Mr. Biden and the president of China, and it turns out that they were on Zoom. They were talking. I guess this is going to be the first time that presidents talk through Zoom at high levels, and they won't need to travel anymore. Well, that's good. I mean, I think we're going to be saving some money on trips. You know, Air Force One will be grounded, and they'll be talking through the internet, which is good in a way. You know, if they can resolve those issues by talking directly, why travel? You know, and even though they say that they missed, the personal contact, I think people will eventually get used to seeing this kind of stuff. Anyways, they had very low expectations for the meeting, first of all, and they made no major announcements, no joint statement. The United States talked about the Uyghurs, the Hong Kong, Taiwan. China says that's meddling in their internal affairs, stopped them cold there. And then they talked about, having a healthy competition and just leaving their differences in competition alone, to compete fairly. According to the American side, they're not. The Chinese are not competing fairly because I guess when they mention these things, they're saying in a way that people are compelled to work, more or less like they're slaves. It's like slave labor, that sort of thing. So they're insinuating that, and whenever the United States can, it will punish China for economically, right? For doing things inside their country which the United States considers against democratic values. And again, it's just a question of, the Chinese saying, well, those are our affairs, don't meddle in our internal affairs. And of course, they consider Taiwan an internal affair that the United States has no business getting into. Okay, it's like if China got involved into something happening, I don't know, in California or Kansas or New York, the United States would say, that's our business, and so these are the issues. And that's on the Oriental side, way in the east. Here we have something a little closer by, and that's Russia. And apparently, there's already been according to this headline here, says that they've already started the Cold War again, or the World War III, you could say. It says war in space began on Sunday. Here's why the superpowers are on red alert. Okay. And what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about, Russia having tested a killer satellite, something that kills satellite. Says if a major superpower were to erupt, it will be in space. Satellites will stop working, screens will go blank, military communications will break down. Now imagine if that happened in the world today. No internet, essentially, right? That would be quite a problem because not only for military issues, but also for economic issues. Can you imagine the internet going down? Suddenly you don't have access to your bank account. Nobody knows how much money anybody has. It says the testing of a Russian anti-satellite weapon this weekend caused a major stir. With no prior warning, a Russian space weapon was launched, traveled 300 miles above the Earth, and successfully obliterated a defunct Soviet-era spy satellite. The mess it has created signaled that Moscow can shoot down satellites in low Earth orbit if it so desires. Okay? So we're in a new era where we depend so heavily on the internet, especially military depend on it, economics depends on it, and now we can shoot those satellites down. And I'm sure the United States has that same capability if it's not developing it, right? And I'm sure soon China will also. And so the question is, if all these countries now have a chance or the opportunity, the ability to knock down the other guy's satellite, can there be a World War III? Where's it going to stop when these countries do not reach an agreement on things like Taiwan or Ukraine? Are they going to knock each other's satellites out? Is that what it's going to be? And once they knock them out, that's the end of communications. Except for the flat earthers. They believe all this is done through sardine cans, that you can talk through a can and that's connected through a little wire to the other guy on the other side, But for everybody else, it's going to be a big problem. Okay, fellow says here, says propaganda, fear porn for the Kool-Aid drinking masses that are dumbed down, lied to, fluoridated, programmed like a computer to stay lost and stuck in a matrix of lies and deception and blah, 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 blah. And he goes on talking about the government, the church, major corporations, media, Hollywood. Lots of people have this notion that out there, there are a group of people who govern the world. And, Illuminati, the New World Order people, whatever you want to call them. It's a group of rich people out there that allegedly or apparently, right, govern the world and have decision powers over millions of people. They can move things around because they have the money, the influence, the power, they have the connections, okay? And so a lot of people today fear or have this notion that someone in control out there, like moving pawns on a chess board, and they can do anything they want. And so a lot of people, when I talk about extinction, they bring these issues up, like, immediately they go into this Illuminati kind of thing. They say, well, it's the powers that be that govern and et cetera, et cetera. They're going to take over the world. They're going to corral all people out there, keep them as slaves. They have these ideas. And all I can tell you is that, no, when the world collapses, when the global economy collapses, these people will have no power, because what's going to collapse is the money. So these people won't have any money, no way of influencing even their servants, whoever works for them now. Why would they work for these people? What are they going to give them? Money? If there is no money and money is no more, what are you going to pay your servants with? So they won't have hitmen or anything like that, because they have no way of controlling them. In fact, they better fear their own hitmen, because their hitmen are probably going to take, vengeance, maybe, against them, say, who are you now? So, this notion that the powers that be will corral people using the army or whatever, you got to control the army. The only way you control the army is by paying them. You can't pay the army. The army's going to rebel as well. So think about that, okay? What I'm saying is money will collapse. Money will be no more. And again, please let me know if you can't hear me or see me, okay? It's happened to me in the past where I talk and there's nothing there. Okay, here's another comment. Fellow says, contributors to this inflationary cycle, we talked about inflation the other day, the climate agenda of the government has chilled new oil production with excessive regulations and taxes, inflating gas and oil prices. 25% of gas and oil is used for plastics and fertilizers. He mentioned a couple more. Cooling climate and crop losses contributing to inflation of food prices. Starvation will reduce world population. I'm not sure about that one. Starvation really today kills a few people in some country in the world, and I'm being kind when I say few, maybe a few thousand, maybe even a million. That could happen, but that's not going to have an impact on the global economy. The global economy will collapse only when you have full-fledged starvation. Then you have a problem. But if one country, a very poor country, has some people starving out there in the wild because they lived in the country and they have nothing to eat, that's not going to affect the world economy. So there's going to be no decrease in population. There's going to be an increase in population until the economy collapses. Once the economy collapses, then you'll have a very sharp decrease in population. Because of what? Because of starvation. Okay? So anyways, that's my take on that. Manipulated lockdown, shutdown, just-in-time delivery of goods, cheaper prices for the consumer, created shortages. Unemployment due to manipulated unemployment payments. In other words, subsidies, reducing production. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on today. I don't know if we're going to come out of that, because one of the issues that I mentioned the other day is that there's like 10 million jobs in the United States available and not enough people to take them, because apparently people have something better to do with their time than work for minimum wage. So maybe they live with their parents, they live with their wives, whatever, and make maybe a little money on the side, and that's enough for them to live without having to work. So keep that in mind, that work is now not desirable as it used to be in the old days, okay, especially at such low wages. If they double the money, the amount of money they're going to give you your salary, you might decide to work. But with the way things are right now, salaries are so depressed that a lot of people decide not to work because they find other ways of living. Okay, and it doesn't mean they're going to be rich or live, throwing butter up in the air, but they can live and they can just make it to the end of the month somehow, they're not going to find a job. They're not going to look for a job. And your result will be stagflation. Okay? There's an opinion for you. Yeah, I think inflation is going to be a problem. There are many factors affecting inflation, like this fellow says. But I think it's inflation that's going to eat into the salaries. And right now, the salaries are quite depressed. I mean, in real terms, right? And inflation is going to eat into that. If the government doesn't somehow raise minimum wages significantly, or companies don't raise their workers' salaries significantly, there's going to be a problem, because a lot of people from the middle class will be falling into the poor class, and meaning that they can barely make it to the end of the month. Some maybe not make it to the end of the month. Those people are going to go out into the streets and break windows and burn tires. Okay, it's just that revolution, grassroots revolution kind of thing. French Revolution, Russian Revolution, that sort of thing. That's very likely to happen even in advanced countries. People say, no, that'll never happen. In Germany, they told me, no, that won't happen. The food lines, the soup kitchens, get ready for them. Okay, regarding homosexuality, that we raised the topic the other day, fellow says, sex hormones start with a base molecule of cholesterol. Maybe replacing animal fats with vegetable oils has contributed to the homo expression. Okay, ironically, saturated fat assists the liver in breaking down toxins that also may contribute to homo expression. Eat your butter and make sure it is real. Okay, what can I say? I'm going to argue that it has nothing to do with food, even though food in some way maybe affects the sex. I think sex, especially orientation, right, is 150% how you're born. Okay, it's in your genes. Okay, and no one decides one day, says, well, I'm not going to look at girls anymore. I think I'm going to look at men. It doesn't work that way. I don't think it does. I think you're born with that orientation. You can't do anything about it. Okay, whether it's nice or not, that's a separate issue. But I'm saying that I think these people are born that way. I don't think any no different than heterosexual. He's not going to come out one day and say, well, I think I'm going to like men now. No, it doesn't happen. You don't change your orientation overnight because you were beaten, or because your mother educated the wrong way, or your father hit you, or whatever. I don't believe that. You're born with it, period. Okay. Another fellow says, homosexuality might be a spin-off in the pursuit against the path of least resistance. Whoa, what is this about? Whether it's a successful approach remains to be seen. For example, homosexuals exposed to the HIV who somehow acquired natural immunity would now be favorable to the species for their enhancement of genetic diversity. In other words, he's saying that if the guy survives that, he's gone through this sifter, HIV in this case, in this example. And so now he's got a different genetic code that, I guess contributes to humanity, to the fact that we have better resistance. The next generation has better resistance because this guy survived, that sort of thing. Were they also able to survive other unique diseases, exposure in that lifestyle? Okay, hello? Just let me know if you can't hear me or see me, okay? I'm worried about that because, again, I'm in South America and I'm improvising a lot of this stuff. I hope it comes out all right. Anyways, were they also able to survive other unique diseases, exposures in that lifestyle, and eventually have children? You could consider that spin-off to be sustaining said life a bit longer. Yeah, again, you're preaching to the wrong guy here. I'm saying all this stuff has to do with evolution and the fact that we've intermarried for so long. Here, let me show you a little picture that I made here just to give you my peace of mind, my 10 cents worth. Okay, here it is. This is what happened as far as I'm concerned. We had, for millions of years we were evolving, and then maybe 200,000 years ago you could say our species began or came into being, in the sense that we could trace our lineage to about 200, maybe 300,000 years ago, and we could still mate with whoever lived in those days, about that time. If you go farther back, maybe to 500,000, 600, 700,000 years ago, we would not be able to mate and have successful children with anyone in those days. So that's what I call the beginning of the human race, anywhere between 200,000, 300,000 years ago. Okay, since then, we've been inbreeding. We've been breeding only with our own kind. We did not breed with the Denisovans. We did not breed with Neanderthals or any other species on the planet. And essentially, we inbred. And we've been doing that for maybe 200, 300,000 years, and now we're having genetic problems of all kinds, physical and mental. And I think that this homosexuality thing is one of the mental variations that we have today, thanks to the fact that we've been inbreeding for 200,000 years. At some point you're going to have problems. And here, let me present a little bit of proof, okay, evidence for those people who rely on proof and evidence. Okay, here's which is unscientific, by the way. It's just part of religion. It's just convincing, persuading. Okay, that's what I'm going to be doing now. And here it is. You find the gay Mennonites. Okay, and you go to the Atlantic magazine there. And here, this article from 2015, you'll find a lot others, okay, out there. It says the denomination has gone through many schisms. They're talking about the Mennonites here, which is a branch that came out of the Amish and all these people who came in the 17th century to the United States, right? Often over issues of tradition and modernity. At one time, it was buttons versus eye hooks on blouses, and whether women should have to wear bonnets. That was in the old days. But today, more recently, it's been women's leadership in the church. You have some women who are pastors or leaders in the Mennonite church. Unheard of, unthought of, unimaginable. And acceptance of those who identify as LGBTQ, XYZ, and so on. Yeah, all these problems are new in that religion, and they are also in the Amish. Here's the Amish. Okay, let me give you a couple pieces of evidence here. One is one site that says the counseling center, and the guy has a blog on on how he was born. He says I guess at the age of 14 he realized he was homosexual. Okay, so I guess they kick him out. They say, look, you either marry a woman, have 10 children like all Amish have, or you get out of here. And another group formed this, what is it, the LGBT Amish, okay? A site for all those who are kicked out of the Amish church or religion, and they have nowhere to go because they are homosexual, and so this is what that's about. So you got that LGBT with a horse. Okay, so these old religions, they're having problems. Why? Because they have the same problems that we have, like they call it the English world, the world outside their frontiers. They're experiencing the same type of problems that we are in our normal world, you could say, right? And why? Because they've been inbreeding for the last 400 years, maybe. So this gives you something to think about. They've been inbreeding. Today they're having physical problems after so many years of inbreeding. They're having a lot of mental problems, and one of those aspects is homosexuality. Okay, so you should look at all these cases, because I'm saying that, again, it's got to do with inbreeding. The fact that you cannot inbreed any species, or at least many species. I can't say all species, but many species. If they inbreed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, at some point they're going to have physical and or mental problems. And you see that there are lions who they are homosexual. You see the male lion mounting another male lion. You can interpret that any way you want and say, well, this is this, this is that. Yeah, whatever you want to say. We see it on sheep. And sheep are a little different than lions, and nevertheless, they both are mammals, and they both have homosexuality. About 10% of sheep are homosexuals. And like I said the other day, they did cross-sections of the brains of sheep, and they found that, the homosexual ones have different brains than the heterosexual ones. So you figure out.